I'm here with Bernie Pryor today. My name's Alan Steinfeld, and we're going to be demonstrating something called the form, which I don't really know how to describe it, Bernie. It's not healing. It's not a Tai Chi. It's a movement of energy. How do you describe this process?
Although we said it's not healing and it's not Tai Chi, it's a kind of, it embodies everything, because what we will be looking at here is a simple everyday movement. That this movement, which does have a form, a particular form, particular structure, is a demonstration that we as human beings actually move from great power, and therefore have the potential to live in that power of the oneself, to live in it. It's in our sensation to live in it and actually move in our lives with great stillness, great creativity, and great love.
So this form is the way the power inside of us is moving us in our response to another person.
Well, no, in our response to life, and in response actually to truth or to love, to that is animating us. Because truly what I'm trying to put across here is that consciousness, as I, you and I and every man and woman, is in this dance of life. So we're the animating consciousness, there's no doubt about that. But if we get stuck in our minds, then there's no power, as it were, to transform life of conditioning into a life of love or pure expression. So this demonstrates to us, and maybe Lisa will get started with the movement. This begins to demonstrate to us, which we'll explain as we look into this, how we can move in life, as Lisa's going to move here, by putting her full awareness and attention inside her vibration, as it were, inside this sense machine, which is inside the sensation, and maintain feeling in the body with presence while she's active, but not using her mind as some kind of past future reflection, keeping it present.
But she's letting something move her. She's not doing it in no sense.
Well, that's what we're all here to discover on the earth, is that what we've done, we've got so caught up in identifying with the body, mind, emotion condition that we're stuck in like a series of pictures from the past and projected into the future of who we are. So we've become very mindy and very separate from each other and the earth. So when we begin to feel in the whole sensation of our body, sensation, I'm saying, and this is a demonstration of it, as maybe we'll see when we go along, sensation really is a conduit of which consciousness uses to animate, to manifest and animate the body.
She's doing specific movements. She started out on the right side there and held her hands over the head.
Yeah, third eye over the head.
And then there is an energy that happens because we are energetic beings. So she's not doing. She's just feeling the energy.
She's allowing herself to connect with the form, to connect with the energy, the way it flows down in a particular way. She's allowing herself to completely connect with what takes place inside the movement. So for instance, when she's bringing her hands like this, she will discover, or as anybody that does this, particularly around the head area, that mind begins to open up. It begins to be more and more silent, and true mind begins to open up. And then as she comes down the body, as she's just done, and connects more with the heart space, what she's actually doing is grounding all the energy that was stuck up in the head, up in the conditioning, and bringing it down to ground, because everyone knows that the earth is a great filter. It just takes, it's like the mother, will take everything that we've ever projected onto it and purify it, and that's the purification that's taking place.
Well, you might just want to comment how when we get out of the speaking, I know we're speaking, but when we get out of the speaking and we're silent in movement, there's another thing that happens.
Completely. Is that what we really love in nature? Like, for instance, when the breeze moves the waves on the ocean or on a river here, or when it moves through the trees, we love the stillness that we connect with in the still movement. in that still movement, because it kind of reflects to us that actually we are beings of innermost peace. And that flows as all activity in the universe. That's our movement. That's why we love Tai Chi, is because it connects us with a pure life force that is deeply within, that's unconditional.
As you're saying that, I'm just realizing the movement that's moving through Lisa, and that is the movement that's moving through all life and all the universe. I get it.
Yeah, and that's connectedness, because then as Lisa connects with that inside herself, there won't be a Lisa as such, and yet in everyday life there is. Do you see? So it's connectivity of the individuality of the person with the individuality of being. And not only that, because in this one moves in profound stillness, at least that's the deepening into it as you move in greater and greater awareness, then there's a transmission of energy, because then our energy connects with the other being. So there's an invitation to connect and meet in being when we all move in a greater silence, even though we're speaking. Silence being in our creation activity that's not projected from thought or expectation, agenda.
And for the person that's receiving, I mean, I have done this and I have received, I felt that actually after the whole thing was over, I dropped in.
You just received a small portion, because we didn't have much time to go into this.
Okay.
But in, let's say, in the practice of this, and certainly in the understanding of it within an 8-day time space, that we would begin to understand that all movement in the universe, our ordinary life, is love in truth, moving as a reflection. And so if we only saw that in the stars, if we saw that in meeting everyone, if we saw that in how we walked, or how we, well, our whole contact with life, it's the contact that's essential, then we'd see the embodiment of a great power that is who we are essentially in the deep, appearing as you and I. Can you see what would manifest? An utter change, because we wouldn't carry the burden of a misidentified with the past and with the future need to have more experience. We would be in true experience, giving true form to each moment. That's the universe.
We'd be able to be with sensation as it is without the thought that we're separate from that sensation.
Yeah, because what's taken place is that even for this experiment of sensation as our existence to take place, consciousness has created an animal body, and it's been entering it in gender, otherwise it couldn't take place. It's been entering it, and that sensation is still very much connected to the old, as it were, the old brain, you know.
The animal brain.
The animal brain, yeah. It's, and we're still in the process of purifying or taking out of our animal brain need to survive.
Yeah.
You know, that's even come into our way that we are together. It's this survival, because it's as an animal instinct to survive, and it's got into our emotion, it's got into our thoughts, it's got into our
social interaction.
It's got into our activity.
Yeah.
And in this, the attraction of the manifestation is for consciousness that we are in the deep. You're in this, everyone is in this, to bring within the sensation, because it needs sensation for us even to talk or be here. Within the sensation is to take out of that sensation the old program that was needed for survival, but now we don't need it.
So the other thing is something in our hands is particularly, I would say, magical. Some emanation that comes out of the palms.
Well, it actually comes out of every cell of your being, because one single cell is the same as any other part of your body, but it's just that the hands represent giving and receiving. It represents that we are in deep, that it is totally giving, and that giving flows back, and it's like that experience of the giving back is what comes into the cosmos as a cosmic experience of life on Earth. Everything is in this.
Tell me another thing. How did you come up with these movements? Did they just come to you?
Well, what took place is, as I know you know, that I had several profound experiences beyond body, mind, identity.
Right.
And that I was just one day sitting with a friend, and we were speaking. I was just standing next to her, and I started to move just around the body in a certain way, and she started to move around my body in a certain way, and we discovered, as it were, like portholes of consciousness that were flowing in a particular way. Now, with this particular lady, I just found one part of that, and that's where we stopped. But in my life, what began to happen is that just continued to bring the whole form. And I'm still endeavoring to understand the whole form. Even now, things come to me while I'm giving this and teaching this. And certainly people that are also practicing this, it keeps unfolding what we are in the deep. And there's never an end to that understanding individually or collectively.
Well, it's probably coming from a higher source beyond the mind, so it's like cannot be understood with the mind what's taking place. But it's an activation of energy, let's say. And
Well, yes, but what I'm saying here is the activation of that energy is the fact and the truth that consciousness is here activating it. So I'm endeavoring to show the bridge between the consciousness that's beyond form and its activation of knowing itself in form, and that's when it is when consciousness participates in activity as it is doing here. That's its activation, and that's when it begins to reflect off in this life who it is that's living as this ordinary man and woman. We begin to understand ourselves deeper. So then the form is a simple demonstration that through our life experiences, we're always taken beyond our limited identity in terms of being born and death, and beginning to understand that in our experiences of life, we're actually gifted, as it were, a deeper door to see ourselves, a deeper mirror, as it were, to go through the door of that. And so in that way, we begin to understand that each movement in our life has extreme power for transformation and the manifestation of what we are eternally. Because if eternity is so vast, which it is, and that's our true nature, so it's complete, that completeness is never-endingly demonstrated in its completeness in our life in each moment. What the mind has done, our limited, the old animal brain is doing, is still reflecting that as something that has continuance, something that had a past, something that had a future. Maybe through this we begin to understand we can fully give to the moment, and there is immense power to transform the individual and transform the way in which we view life, and we actively create individually from the same source.
Well, it's a dropping into our true sense. I mean, even watching the form, I get a sense of stillness.
Yeah.
Just being in the presence of that. And the other thing that really comes up for me, it's an honoring of the divinity in the human. And she is honoring this divine being that's sitting in front of her. And he's receiving the honoring of his own divinity in that.
That's it. And let's say, isn't that what's happening here? Isn't that what happens when we go into a shop and buy some product, a coffee or something? Isn't that the stranger meeting a stranger on the street? That there's an interconnectedness that is our potential to meet each other in eternity as a man and a woman, or each other appearing now. And that's all in our sensation.
Yeah.
So then there's no duality.
So if enough people did this form, then it would be something we would do in a coffee shop. It would be in us.
Well,
it would be...
I hear what you're saying, but I'm turning that around the other way. Is that this is the only thing that's happening. And this is a simple demonstration to show this is the only thing that's happening. So then we can move in life with a greater love, a greater sense of purpose, a greater connectivity with our own being and the one source in each other. Because then we don't just use our mind and rush down the street. We can come into our being and then rush down the street. So it's different altogether.
Yeah, that would change our whole culture, our whole
It doesn't mean you're going to be
world.
walking around like a robot, very slow. It simply means that in all action, no matter how it is, you're going to be present with it.
So in that movement, she kind of hit every center and then comes to completion as a prayer in front of...
Yeah. And my experience of this in doing this, and certainly in the receiving, and from what people have experienced, I've had people being given this or receiving this that has dropped so deep that in the East they might call that samadhi. I've had complete strangers dropping in the deep for 5 hours. One woman, she was on my chair many years ago. She just went for 5 hours, really, and I was in this body mind exhibit. And when she come up and she said, "Okay, is that it?" I just showed her a watch and a realization that she was that deep.
Well, yeah, I recommend it. I did drop into something, and there's some interaction, even though the person's sitting silently and this woman's moving, there's an interaction.
Yeah, there's an interaction, but that interaction is actually coming from a very deep place in that the movement comes in 4 parts, and I teach it over a period of 8 to 12 days. I say 8 to 12 because my last one this season is 8 days, but the call around the world is to extend it to 12, and I see, and that's true. So each of the parts represent a more powerful place within each individual, and so we call forth more energy, call forth more power.
And more might be coming to you as well.
Well, who knows?